Three, two, one. Welcome to the Lightforge podcast. This is Adwicta.
This is Merps. Hello. We have a little mini set ahead of us,
It's
and
the
we should
Wailing
definitely talk about it.
Caverns.
It's the Wailing Caverns. If you guys haven't seen the little YouTube promo video that they put out, you can watch it. It's got a certain flavor to it. It's got that playful Hearthstone vibe. I like it. It's always kind of enjoyable when they integrate the WoW universe in these like comical ways, especially when they're trying to do scary stuff, which is what they try to do with the Wailing Caverns. Like, oh, it's spooky. So definitely go watch that if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, and with the mini set, and if you guys are wondering why we're getting so many mini sets, it's like a new Blizzard thing where they're doing one mini set every single expansion in the middle between the two expansions. So you can think of each set really as instead of 135 cards, it's 175 cards with 35 cards delayed 2 months before releasing. The mini sets don't have their own mechanics. They don't really have their own flavor. They have like maybe some themes or whatever, but not mechanically in terms of the flavors. They're really meant to support existing archetypes and to bring it up and construct it. But for Arena, it just means more cards. So we'll go through the cards. We thought we were gonna have more cards to go through because they were like, we're gonna start the reveals, and this was, I think they announced it on Thursday, and they said they're gonna start the reveals on Friday. It's now Sunday. They've revealed 4 cards. 4 other cards have leaked, so we have 8 of the 35 cards. And we're not doing another podcast until all the cards are live, which is going to be on Thursday. So this is it. This is the preview. And so it's not going to be like a evaluation kind of thing. We're not going to give it stars or ratings or whatever necessarily. We're just going to kind of talk about each of the cards that we know. And then next weekend, that's when we're going to, like after we've already had a chance to play with the cards and to like see the cards and they're in the meta and we actually have some win rates by then and something. We'll talk about all the rest of the cards then, but just because of the release timing. I think for the just for there's nothing much we can do about it. We're not gonna record and release a special Lightforge on like Tuesday night or whenever they do the card dump.
We're hoping to get a lot more cards by now, because we were just expecting a little bit more. Uh, but it's fine. I mean, we understand kind of the flavor that they're trying to go for. We got 8 right now, so still got something to talk about, and we have a lot of interesting ones. Of course, there's 2 interesting, cool legendaries, but those probably won't be as relevant as some of the common cards. I say probably because you guys know Ysera. Being a legendary is one of the biggest difference makers in Arena right now. It kind of doesn't matter that it's a legendary because there's quite a few ways to find it, whether through Draconic Studies, through Lackey, Draconic Lackey, whether it's through Resizing Pouch, in all sorts of ways. But yeah, let's just go through the first mini
Before we
set
go through
card.
it, just to confirm, and this is what I think, but let me know if you heard any differently. They did not announce anything about a rotation in Arena,
No, of course not.
and nobody asked.
I don't know if people asked. Like, I can't tell you it's like definitively yes, someone asked, no, someone didn't ask. Especially because like we have the Friday AMAs with Ixar or anything. I don't know. I mean, and I don't think like you checked it either, so we can't.
Well, like
We can't sit here and say like yes, someone asked or no,
well,
someone
okay.
didn't
I don't
ask.
know if any, but like no one's asked in official channels, right? I'm sure someone may have like tweeted a dev or whatever, but none of the official things that were addressed and whatever had to do with it. But okay, well, maybe nobody asked is not the right way to phrase it. Maybe it's more like there hasn't been attention paid to it, even if a person here or there is asking, right? It's not like the arena streamers have been like, hey, is there, rotation coming up? It's not like the community on Reddit or elsewhere has been like talking to the devs about it publicly. Like, that's not happened. And we also have no information because Blizzard obviously not volunteering this information unless people are poking them at it. So we also don't know if there is a rotation coming on Thursday. But for now, we assume no. Even though I think it should be like this, it would make sense to have a rotation with the coming because we're in the midpoint of the large expansion and new cards are coming. So just wanted to set it out there that this is just kind of unknown information. There are no official sources anywhere that have talked about the arena with regard to this set. Cards will clearly be in the arena because that's how it works. But the rotation is, if it happens, it'll be a surprise.
Yeah, I wasn't really expecting one. I just like you expect it in terms of like, oh, it would make sense, but I just wasn't really expecting one. Period.
Well, like right now, this
So
isn't even like before. For most of 2020, we had like just kind of this word from Blizzard that we're just going to do standard because they just wanted to give up on it, right? They had this period where they were doing rotations every like quite like regularly every like 2 months or every month or something, every 2 months. And then they stopped and they just said this is going to be standard. Arena's going to be standard again. And then they brought back the rotations just now, like just in time for this new Hearthstone year. So right now, what's in the arena is not standard. It's kind of like there's some random sets in there, right? Like you have like Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, right, is in the arena right now, which is just kind of weird, but that's what they're doing. So I'm thinking that there is going to be a rotation coming because we're back in the rotation system. We're not doing what they were doing last year.
maybe, like you said, we are not sure.
All right. Well, yeah. So if we're doing any kind of analysis, we're just kind of assuming in this meta, and also almost regardless of what these cards are, no matter how good they are. I mean, yeah, if there's a lot of neutral cards that are really good, it could make a difference. But this set, if it just gets released and there is no rotation and no offering rate bonus, which there isn't even for like the new large expansions these days, so there really wouldn't be for this mini set. It's not going to make an impact. We saw what happened with the last mini set. Really, all the mini sets that have ever been released, which is just two so far, have had almost no impact on the arena meta, even if they have had ridiculously good cards in them. There's just not enough cards to move things around.
Yep, that's true. Okay, so they released 4 cards so far officially, and then there were other 4 cards that were translated from a Russian video. These have not been officially released, but they are accepted by the community as being legitimate. So we will talk about them as well. And we can start off with the 3 rare cards. There's 1 legendary, there's 3 rares, and the 3 rares are all Dungeoneers, going with this theme of just a ragtag team, people going into this cave or dungeon and seeing the horrors that are inside. So we can start with the Shaman one. It's Primal Dungeoneer. It's a 3-mana 2/3. They're all 3-mana 2/3s, by the way. With Battlecry, draw a spell. If it's a nature spell, also draw an elemental. So, 3-mana 2/3, not great. Very bad. But all of these, so all of the Dungeoneers that we're going to be talking about, they're 3-mana 2/3s. They all have a Battlecry. They all draw a spell immediately. You immediately draw a spell, and if it is some sort of spell, you do something else. So the Primal Dungeoneer does that. Let's just go through the other 2 so people kind of know what these are. We have the Frostweave Dungeoneer. That is the mage one, and the battle cry is draw a spell. If it's a frost spell, summon 2 1/1 elementals that freeze. The priest one is Devout Dungeoneer. Battle cry, draw a spell. If it's a holy spell, reduce its cost by 2. These aren't super hard conditions to trigger because these are spell types that are pretty prominent, and they're fairly powerful. Although the mage one, you're not drafting that many frost spells exactly. Like you have a decent amount of holy spells and priests. I don't exactly know like how many good frost spells you're drafting, but it's not that many. And with shamans, you have a decent amount of nature spells.
I think for if you've played the Toad with Shaman or any of the Frost synergies with Mage that require something to be like in your deck rather than randomly generated, or even with Priest looking for Holy or Paladin looking for Holy, you will, like in this arena, you'll notice two things. One, there's not that many spells, period. This is a low spell meta. This is a high generated meta, so high generated spells including, but this is a low just spell in your deck kind of meta. And as you can see, there's going to be a lot of cards that are put into this set that's minions too. So this is not going to change all that much. On top of that, you'll also notice that like less than half of your spells are going to be any of this kind of tags in the arena, even if you try. I've tried to make Frost Mage. I've tried to make nature spells to work with toads. I've tried to make holy spells to work with stuff. Yeah, it's hard. Your ratios are pretty bad. Your total number of spells are pretty bad. Here, you arguably have more control because you don't need a ton of spells, right? You just need like maybe like 3, so make sure you never empty draw. And with those spells, you can avoid non-nature spells and only take nature spells, right? Or avoid non-frost spells and only take frost spells. But it involves drafting kind of like poorly, right? Like not like bad, but just like you're losing something for this extra consideration. And in exchange, you're not getting a lot, right? Like Merp said, like 2/1/1s elementals with freeze if you happen to trigger it when you're already anti-tempoing. You draw an extra elemental from your deck. You also do need to have the elemental, which you probably do, but you may not. Or the holy, you save 2 mana sometime probably in the mid or late game on that holy spell. These are not amazing arena cards. Now, a 3 mana 2/3 draw a card from your deck is not bad in arena. Like Gnomish Adventurous 4 mana 2/4 draw a card, and that is like below average. That's not even unplayable. The 3 mana 2/3 draw a card, and not just any card, but a spell. And spells are usually better than your other cards in the arena. Like it's okay, right? This is probably Yeti level. And you really should look at this extra trigger condition in the arena as a bonus. It can happen. It's not like it's super hard to happen, but you can't rely on it, and you shouldn't change your whole deck to rely on it. Like maybe very much at the margins, but otherwise just take it as a bonus. These are not designed for the arena. They just happen to be strong enough that they're also okay for the arena, and you'll see them. And every now and then they'll trigger, and you'll be triggered because if they get played against you, and if it happens with you, you'll be like, oh, that's a nice little bonus. But they are what they are. Like these are not good cards. Don't start dreaming of these like highly synergistic decks.
Part of the thing in Hearthstone right now is there's so much card generation that you don't really need this kind of stuff where it's like, oh, I need even more card draw, because card draw and card generation is just so easy right now. And there's a lot more ways to get targeted ones, as in discover. Discover is a lot of times better than just drawing a random one that you drafted, which is nice, like you did choose it, but you chose it earlier. This is why Scorpid is so good, even past the point that it is a Cobra and you're not giving up any tempo by doing it. You are choosing at a later point, so you can choose the most appropriate one and the best one. This one, yeah, you have selected one that you previously selected, but it was from a while ago. So the one that you draw now might not be applicable. It might be too small. It might be too big. You might just really need additional draw off of that, and it's like just not exactly what you're looking for. But there are major differences in these. So, like I was saying a few minutes ago, frost spells are definitely tough for mage. Nature spells are a lot easier for shaman. Just to give you an example, like if you look at shaman, the list of nature spells just from the core set: lightning bolt, chain lightning. There is lightning storm, storm strike, tidal surge, dunk tank, hex, torrent, Tidal Wave, Runic Carvings. These are like the ones that make up a lot of shaman decks. Like you're gonna see a lot of these. Mage in the core set, like what are the good frost spells that you're gonna actually think about drafting? It's basically Brain Freeze, Oasis Ally, and Deep Freeze. And that's about it. Like, are you drafting Cone of Cold? Maybe, but it's not like a super high priority pick. And you're definitely not drafting Ice Barrier. So you're going to be drafting other spells because Mage has like a lot of other good spells. So that's really kind of the problem with like the Mage one. You just have a lower percent chance whenever you draw a spell that you're going to get the secondary beneficial effect, which is getting 2/1/1 elementals that freeze, which is quite nice. Like we've seen how annoying those things are. And the Primal Dungeoneer, just by you playing normally, you are probably going to draw that elemental. And there are elementals floating around in your deck now just by you drafting naturally. So you're going to get that extra value off of the Primal Dungeoneer quite a lot more than you are going to get it off of the Frostweave one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So those are the Dungeoneers. The legendary card that is coming in is neutral legendary. This is the only one that we know of. It's a 7-mana 4/4 Murloc. I was going to pronounce that in a very bad way. Mutinous. The Devourer.
It's a mutant. It's a mutant.
Mutinous. Okay. Like, just for the record, it's spelled like mutanus.
It is.
But it's mutinous. And it's not mutinous the way the word mutinous is actually spelled. Mutinous the Devourer. Battle Cry. This is a 7-mana 4/4. Battle Cry. Eat a minion in your opponent's hand. Gain its stats. So, you just break it down. Your opponent has a bunch of minions in their hand. Maybe they're going to lean large because by the time you get to 7 mana, a lot of the curve cards have been played. Probably your average size is going to be something like a 4/4 or a 5/5. So you are already getting an overstated minion on average with this minion. On top of that, as a bonus, you get to remove a card from your opponent's hand.
Quite good. It's really good. I mean, right now, like I can see some people saying, "What if they don't have anything in their hand?" Well, you should be in a decent position then. That's fine. So this thing is just a ton of value, and even if you like just eat, let's say, a raptor, it's 7 mana for what, a 7/6, which is a little bit understated, but you got rid of a raptor out of their hand, which is worth a little bit of something. So even in the significant low roll situation, and I know we can get rid of like 2/1s and everything, but let's not go for the absolute low roll. Let's just go for the mini low roll.
Rip
It's still pretty
Raptor.
good. Yeah, exactly. That's still pretty good. So this card, people are gonna pick it. It's the first time Hearthstone has printed something exactly like this disruptive. We know that Hearthstone doesn't like to do this, and they've pushed the boundaries a little bit more and a little bit more. Angusia right now is probably the most the best way to disrupt, as in you switch hands and you just like burn all of their cards by playing it and you give it back to them. But that still requires a little more, you know, play. I know constructive people are gonna say that there's not really a counterplay to it, but this you're just like chomping it out of their hands, and I'm wondering if we're going to see a lot more of this effect. Just like, nope, I'm just going to take something or make you discard something or like whatever, take something away, and that thing that you were building up towards, right? That's gone now. So no more of those like kind of keep Gadgetzan, Auctioneer, or Leroy in your hand circa like 2015, 2016. and there's nothing my opponent can do about it. I'm just waiting for, for me to draw the Cold Blood, for me to draw the Backstab or whatever, and then I'm gonna go all in. This thing stops that sort of play style.
Yep. In the arena, it's just a good card. Take it. It's a premium. Merps is talking about the worst case scenario, and it's still a pretty good card. Best case scenario, it's the most amazing card, right? And you may be thinking, like, oh, what if it eats a 2-1 or 1-1? But those 2-1s and 1-1s probably do stuff, and so you're still making them discard a real card, right? The only time this is a bad card is if it's actually eating, like a token, like your squirrels from Acorn Bearer or whatever, right? So that's a very low likelihood scenario.
Yep.
Okay. So those are all the cards that have officially been released, been spoiled, been confirmed, I guess, which is kind of not a lot, even out of a 35 card set. But there are leaks. This Russian video leaked 4 cards, and they are widely believed to be pretty legitimate, although the names are because they're Russian. So the Russian names are probably fine, but the English names are very unconfirmed. And I am using out-of.cards as my source here. So the names are however they translated it. These will not be the actual official names.
They're not translated, by the way. These are just placeholders. Like if you haven't kept up with all the reveals in previous reveal seasons, this is just a placeholder like every source uses.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. You don't keep up with this stuff, do you? This is like so like the fluffy word, like they'll always use fluffy this, fluffy that. I don't know why or where that came from, but they just always use that.
I see. Okay.
I highly suspect that nothing about the name will be fluffy. Highly suspect.
That's sad. I was hoping they'd all be fluffy.
No.
Okay, so apparently none of these are fluffy.
So these are not translations. These are just placeholders.
Okay, so these are placeholder names, and we will. So we'll talk about the placeholders, and we'll name it at that, but we'll refer to them as a descriptive version of what the card is, so you can remember the cards because the names are not going to be the real names. Okay. So let's start with the one that everyone is going to care about, because this will now be a part of the meta. It is a really, 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 really good neutral 3-drop. Neutral 3-drop common. The 3-mana 3/2, Death Rattle, summon a 2/2. A 2/2 Pilgrim with a random effect. So, just right off the bat, 3/2 is a better stat line than 2/3 compared to Harvest Golem when you have a Death Rattle, and 2/2 is obviously better than 2/1. So you have like the new upgraded version of Harvest Golem without the mech tag. But then your 2/2 body has a random effect. Now the random effects can be kind of like anything that is that is a keyword. So you want to go into what the random effects could be, Merps?
Sure. And this is just people guessing right now. Like, this is not official yet, but people are thinking that it is going to be the keywords, not including Battlecry or Death Rattle. So, Rush, Lifesteal, Taunt, Poison, Divine Shield, Stealth, Wind Fury, and maybe Spell Damage. People are thinking no more Spell Damage because they don't like that universally, but maybe. So give or take spell damage there. And we know charge is a word, but people are thinking, once again, charge and spell damage are two that they've essentially been trying to wipe out from the game. So they're thinking those are 2 words that are probably not going to be included.
Yep. So yeah. So this is just kind of a really insanely strong 3-drop. Now, this is not any better than other insanely strong 3-drops that we have. I would rather have the Harbinger, not the Harbinger. What is it? The Initiate, the 3/4 that gets a Divine Shield with Frenzy. I'd rather have that than this card. Obviously, this is not like breaking new boundaries of what a 3-drop can be in the neutral category in this game, but it will be a very good one, and you will pick it very frequently.
It's a very good one. It just trades straight up at least with Hog Rider, which we all know is a very very good 3 drop. And if you get the Divine Shield, it more than trades with that. So it's just a good sticky minion for staying on the board. And yeah, like this is the card that you're going to pick a lot. You're going to see a lot. It's a common card. The one issue is that it is going in that all important 3 slot, and that's a very crowded slot these days. You know, you're fighting against a ton of really premium cards, from the Initiate to the Basilisk to Scorpid, to just all sorts of things. Class specific ones too that have an additional effect. So the Ooze just doesn't look that great by comparison, but it's only because all of the other ones are so crazy good.
The name is Fluffy Pilgrim Ooze, by the way. I'm kind of sad that it won't be anything like that with the actual name.
Did you actually like? Did you not follow any reveal season? Because like with
No. I
every
look at the
reveal season,
reveals. I look at the
it's
cards when they get revealed, and I follow the one on
you've
Reddit.
never like accidentally or even because it's always been like this. I'm surprised you didn't know about it until now. They
No,
just use this placeholder
no.
for
I
everything.
only ever look at the ones that are officially confirmed because I look at that chart, the big reveal chart on the Hearthstone subreddit.
Hmm.
And that helps me keep track as they're released, right? Because back in the day, you do the algorithm, and then you have to be on top of it when new ones come out every day. So yeah, so I've
Yeah.
looked at
So
the official cards
this is
the
the
day it's come
placeholder.
out every time, and I've
It's
never seen a placeholder because I would not, I would not be, I would not have seen anything that was not confirmed.
all right. So we got 2 class cards after that as well. First, we can talk about a Druid card. It's a big Druid card. It's a 8 mana for a 4/9 beast. It's a rare minion.
It's a
After
fluffy winged snake. This one
it
better be
is
fluffy.
after you cast a nature spell, summon a 4/2 snake with rush. Okay. One of the issues is just like you're getting a
No,
4/9 for
this is
8 mana.
this is a no in arena.
That's a yikes. And if you really look at how druids win these days, in the current patch with the current micro adjusts, it's acorn bearers and the thorn growth centuries with lotus and arbor ups, just all of that stuff. The fluffy winged snake just doesn't fit anywhere. It clogs your hand, and if you are going for 8 drop to finish the game, you'd
No.
so much rather want something like a proto drake at least. And right now,
Hmm.
like in today's druid decks, if you're looking at a proto drake, you're even like, yeah, like this could get stuck in my hand. Like let's just really try to curve out, because the power of snowballing, flooding the board, buffing it all up with lotus and arbor ups and pride's fury, all of those things, that's just so powerful. And this thing, like if you just drop it on 8 mana and it's only a 4/9, you're not doing anything. So it's significantly underpowered for that turn, and then it's like a 2 turn play. Just
Even
yeah,
if
just
you
too
have
much
the
stuff.
combos, it is bad. It is just bad. This is a bad card in the arena.
Yeah, so this thing is just I don't see this thing being relevant. Definitely not in this meta.
Not in
Maybe
any
in some
meta.
other
Mm-mm.
meta in which things get really weird,
Just
but yeah,
bad.
this is not good. Not good. Okay.
Okay, so then we have the last card that is not a legendary, and it is a paladin spell, 7 mana. It is summon 5/2/2 pilgrims with random effects. That's 10/10's worth of stats plus 5 random effects.
Pretty nice. I mean, if you think about what the random effects are, you're probably getting a divine shield. There might be like a wind fury, a taunt, life steal somewhere in there. So you
I think
spread
on
out.
average you get something like a taunt. in terms of utility in the arena. The Divine Shield is a very big high roll.
Yeah, but I'm saying like it's not uncommon for you to get one of them, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is like good for what you want to do. Like if you are in need of something in turn 7, and this thing fulfills a lot of roles, right? Like you're trying to guarantee yourself something to buff. Maybe you're pushing for lethal and you want to make it harder, or you want to challenge your opponent to have that AoE. It's just nice. It's just nice. And if you're in trouble as well, maybe you get a taunt and a life steal, and then you can buff one, you can buff both of them. It's just like big things today in the arena have to do more than just one thing. Like Boulderfist Ogres don't cut it anymore. Sorry, Boulderfist Ogres. If you are a singular big thing, in order for you to be super duper premium, like Troublemaker, you know what Troublemaker does. If you just want to be premium, you have to at least be kind of like a proto Drake, or you just have to provide a lot of utility in many ways. Flexibility is key. If you're a big card and you are not flexible, or provide significant overstats with that flexibility, you're just not going to cut it. But this is nice. Like it gives you a decent amount of 7 mana.
Yep. Don't be fooled. This is not like a super premium card or anything, but it's a good card. Like you should pick it as a big thing. Would I rather have this or a Proto Drake? I think it's kind of a toss up. Like I think that's where this card is power level wise, because it does have RNG to it. But overall, it averages out to be pretty well, and you get 5 shots at it, so you're evening out the RNG a little bit. And you're doing what paladins want to do, right? Like paladins generally want to spread out on the board with a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, I wonder what all these pilgrims are though. Like, is there going to be like a new pilgrim synergy that's being added in this set? Like, why are we all of a sudden having pilgrims?
Who knows, man? Not exactly sure, but we can talk about the last card. It is a legendary. This one is a Druid Legendary. It's a 6 mana, 3/7. Your nature spells cost 2 less. So I'm surprised that they're doing something like this, because Blizzard has also shown that they're reluctant to just decrease costs, because that creates problems. Whenever you're reducing stuff to 0, and people are already worried about this card because
like, why wouldn't it be reduced the cost by 2 less, but not below 1, right? Like, yeah, I think they've done that before.
Right, they have done that, and they have retroactively added that to a couple of cards because those were problematic, and people are already worried because Celestial Alignment has already been frustrating, I guess, for some people, and others are worried that once this comes out, Celestial Alignment is going to blow away the meta. We will see if that happens. I will definitely not be tinkering with that, but just looking at Twitterverse, a lot of people are immediately worried because Celestial Alignment Druid is already decent. And some of these spells, if you're looking at it just from an arena perspective, well, what exactly are you getting? What's the best bang for your buck? Nature Studies gets you. Yeah, it's like you're saving a mana. You could get Iron Bark, but if you're ready to have 7 mana crystals, so it's really just like, oh man, on turn 6, I get a free Iron Bark, like 1 turn ahead. You can get Thorn Growth Sentries, that's decent. You can get like Mark of the Wild or Mark of the Spike Shell. Like these are free, so that's
they still cost a card.
They still cost a card, but because you are under tempoed when you play it, you typically want to play other stuff to at least make up the tempo. But yeah, the problem is if you look at a lot of these nature spells and how you can try to pop off with them, the pop off potential is not great. And then next turn, yeah, you can get cheaper Arbor Ups, cheaper Runic Carvings, and that's fantastic. but we're getting really specific here, and you need these in your hand in order for
Mm-hmm.
that to work.
Yep. So this card in Arena, bad. Don't pick it.
Yeah, it just won't be that good. The effect is just too hard to pull off to a beneficial degree in Arena. With Arena these days, the theme is it has to be decent on its own. And like it has to be good on its own. And if it's synergy, well, that has to be a bonus. Like, um, you just have to be able to handle your own in any sort of deck, and then the synergy stuff, that's cool. Like I will take some extra. 2021 is the year in which you as a Hearthstone card, you are expected to be independently good in terms of stats, in terms of whatever, and also provide more. Like we're no longer giving up for beneficial effects. Like we need vanilla stats at least and a beneficial effect. That's how you are relevant in 2021 now.
Everybody just gets more stuff. This is the world now. Okay, so we have 6 non-legendaries, 2 legendaries revealed, 8 cards out of 35. That means most of the cards we have no idea what they are, and we will be like you, eagerly awaiting that. I don't even think. I don't know. Maybe Blizzard's going to reveal more cards on Monday. Maybe not. It's a holiday weekend here in the U.S., but not in the rest of the world. So who knows? Anyway, we're looking forward to the new set when it comes out. Our first stream, I will be doing the Friday night stream. So that's when we'll first jump into the meta with those. And next Lightforge will be the one in which we walk through all the other cards. And I guess these again, but not like in as much depth as we've given them here. And just kind of bring you up to speed on the new meta. But like spoiler alert, the meta's not changing. Like unless they do a rotation. And if they do a rotation, then the whole meta changes, right? Depending on which sets they decide to put in the meta. So it's all kind of up in the air right now. But hey, this neutral card is going to be big, so keep an eye on it. The Fluffy Pilgrim Ooze, 3 mana, 3/2 Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 Pilgrim with random effects, and this is going to be terrible for the meta. To like whatever degree that it is, you see it around, right? It's just not going to be good because it has a very high random factor on that random effect. It could do literally nothing. It could effectively add another 2/1 onto the board on turn 3, right? Like that's a pretty big roll. I don't know. This meta, like honestly, that's not even that big of a swing now that I say it out loud. I'm like, 2/1, whatever. They just get a bonus Acorn Bearer, like a bonus 2/1 on the board. I feel like it matters, but it's not the death sentence that it was in certain metas. There's just too much swing these days that you can probably come back from that.
Yep, I think that's fair. I'm definitely going to be jumping back into Arena for at least a short period of time to try to feel these cards out. I'm also not exactly super stoked for BGs right now, so it's quite easy for me to jump back into the Arena. And I don't know, I'm hoping we get a rotation, although I'm definitely not expecting it. I'm also hoping we get some sort of adjust, although who knows there.
They're
But
definitely
even
not
if we
doing an
get
adjust. They're adding cards. They never do
yeah,
an adjust.
even if we get
cards.
nothing, I'm happy to just try out the cards.
Yeah. I mean, in this meta right now, like we've been saying this for the whole time, the top end is not that bad. Druids and rogues are really not that impressive. The bottom end of like paladins and demon hunters are pretty terrible. But you have like 7.5 workable classes. So it's not in dire need of adjusts. And I don't know. I think the meta's good. That's why I've been playing more Arena than I usually do. Okay, so bigger question, Merps, how do you like this new mini set thing? Let's say you had 2 options. One is this mini set system as it currently is. You know what? I'll give you 3 options. One is this mini set option as it currently is. One is you get 170 cards each expansion. So you take the mini set and you put it into the main set and you get it 2 months earlier. For Arena, I mean. And 3 is you delay even more cards so that you get, let's say, 100 cards and then 50 cards later. Which one would you take?
And they're not doing any sort of rotation or anything. It's just
They could do rotations or not, like separately, right? Like just to, it wouldn't matter. Like let's just say they do rotations regardless, every 2 months.
okay. I mean, if they're rotating, then just give me all the cards at once. I like the fact that there's just more to play around with there, and then if they're rotating, it'll feel fresh anyways. Because I do believe that time and momentum is important, right? So if they are rotating, then there is something that can shake things up, and in which case I feel more comfortable just getting everything at the beginning. Uh, because there is that sort of thing to look forward to, right? But if there isn't, and just like sort of like a squirrel planning for the winter, well, I need to put off some stuff, right? I need to dig up like my food source later on in order to still be excited about it. So sure, give me this mini set, but otherwise, just give it to me all at the beginning. You're gonna change it up, and as long as we keep these cards prominent and relevant, and assuming Blizzard is still paying attention and doing what they got to do and maybe even adjusting, that's fine. You know, like these cards are still relatively new, and you got to figure out ways to use them the best, or at least better than other people. That's the entire game.
Okay, that sounds good. I think I would prefer to have more cards later on and to spread it out a little more, if we're getting rotations anyway, um, just to keep having new things, right? Like the 4 month period is so long to like just have nothing new. And rotations, they do change the meta up, which is nice, but they're not adding new cards. So I like how they're currently doing it. I would actually delay even more cards. And it does also prevent what you were talking about or what you were hinting at, which is that Blizzard may forget or become overwhelmed or be just lazy and not do a rotation. In which case, having this extra boost is just good for the meta. So yeah. I think overall it's an interesting philosophy, and it adds more cards to the pool. So I like that they've recognized that Hearthstone could use Hearthstone's mature enough of a game that it could use larger sets in general and like more updates.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Whatever they do, though, they just have to balance it a little bit more. Like take a little bit more care, be a little bit more transparent. It's all of these things. So yeah, like I with this question, I'm just kind of thinking, I'm like, it doesn't even matter. Like just be a little bit more consistent, right? Be a little bit more consistent. Like just do a little bit more to for us to have some sort of expectation. Um, and that would be fine. But sure. Like we'll see what happens with this one.
All right. So that's it for this upcoming mini set. Again, we'll come back with all the cards next week when we're already in the meta, and we're looking forward to it. Do you have a question for the goat? I know I try to ask brand new for a question from the goat, but half of her questions are very hard to do in a podcast format. Another portion of her questions are questions we've already addressed, and finally, her main question has nothing to do with the podcast at all and is about our streets. So, do you have anything to ask?
Sure. Let's talk about a common thing that I see on Arena HS, and I visit Arena HS like a decent amount. I don't post there anymore, but I do visit and just check to see what people are talking about. But you see some new players either coming back or trying to just check out Arena, and there's a lot of frustration from these new players, and there's a lot of like man, how much RNG is there right now? To I don't know exactly how to improve. And here is like we could talk about this for hours and hours. I think a lot of people on Arena HS are giving decent advice to these new people. Here's the reality of the situation, because people hear about the ability to go infinite. They hear about all of these ways to learn. It's harder than ever for you as a newbie or a relative newbie to go infinite,
Or even a
and
returning
or
player who's been out for like
right,
over a year.
and to pick up all of these things for you to basically be like Neo and see the ones and zeros instead of just seeing, what all of us plebs see, right? Which is like, like the lady in the red dress or the steak or whatever. Um, because RNG and these discover effects hide that very well. So
Mm-hmm.
what you got to prepare for is, like, I know a lot of people are frustrated, and it's just, you these days you got to stick with it a lot longer. You have to try a lot harder, be more proactive in your learning. You got to watch the arena streams and really try to anticipate, okay, what are they going to do? You can watch VODs, right? Pause it and guess what they're going to do. And then if they do something different, you got to try to figure out what these people are doing different from you. You need to get someone else to help perhaps evaluate your games, maybe play with someone else. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to lose a lot of gold slash entry tickets, a lot more than if you had started years ago. That's just the way it is. And I want to just set realistic expectations for newer people because I see a lot of frustration. And the fact is, like many things, right? Like, for example, the housing industry. It's like, oh, I'm jumping into housing industry. I want to buy a house. How is it? And people are like, you're screwed. It's kind of like that. It's just, it is what it is. It's much tougher these days if you want to break into the arena and either go infinite or just have a lot of fun by winning, right? A lot of people equate winning with fun. So it's just very tough. You have to pound the resources a lot more. You are going to get smacked around a lot more. And it's harder to learn because it's easier for you to understand the concepts, the core concepts of the game when it is just Yetis and ogres. And then as the game evolves, you understand it's like, oh, Yeti is not a Yeti. Yeti represents this. And if you watch my YouTube video series where and that's still relevant because I made that to be meta resistant. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, whatever discover effects, whatever. It's all understanding the ones and zeros and seeing that instead of being like, oh, Scorpids are in. Here's how you play around Scorpids. But it's harder these days because people will come into the arena, they will see all the discover effects and be like, there's nothing I could do. It's the game was lost. Like, they discovered this, they discovered that, and maybe so, like, for that game. But if we're seeing the same people on the leaderboards every single month, obviously that is not true. And you could get screwed over once or twice. You're just not going to get screwed over all the time. So stick with it if you want.
Like,
and if you can't do that, then you have to think about, like, okay, well, maybe I just got to take it slow. Like, I think a lot of people are just expecting a lot more, a lot sooner with less work than they anticipated. And that's unfortunately just not the case with Arena in 2021.
Yeah, like it's harder. Not just like the ceiling's harder, but to make progress in this game is harder now. There's so much fluff that's around that's making you go in different ways, right? It's harder to learn and self-identify that you made a wrong play. So it's now more important than ever to like watch streamers and pause before they make a move and then see if you make the same move, and if not, like, figure out why, right? Hopefully they explain themselves. The thing with the win rates is they are lower than they were before. Even among top players, they are lower in the last like year. Not this meta specifically, but the recent metas are lower than they were 2-3 years ago in win rates. That's just where the game is now, right? And that's fine because the win rates are still really high, because the win rates are still in infinite territory. And what I think a lot of people they can't square how people are still doing very well consistently with what they see, which is that it's random BS going on all the time, and you win by a lot or you lose by a lot so often, right? It doesn't square with them. This feels wrong, right? It doesn't feel like, oh, the best players are winning on average like half a game less than they were before. Like, that can't be true. Why? Because everything's moving around so much more than they were before. How do you make it so that there's even an average consistency, if not a game to game consistency of roughly where you were before? And the answer to that is it's a part of it is just a different skill set. So if you're looking at the Yetis and the Ogres, yeah, that's a lot less certain than it was before. Like if you're relying on that for your base of your win rate, that's going to take a hit of like 2-3 wins per run. But a good player makes up for it by embracing to some extent the swings, embracing to some extent the discovers, right? You have to play with what the game gives you, and the game is giving you a lot of this stuff right now, and a lot of this stuff is really, really good, even though they are of the type of stuff that generally good players don't like because of the swings, because of the randomness. You still have to know what to do with it and what the right decisions are, and that will mitigate some of the losses that you're taking that you were relying on your fundamental skills before. Like, it's not the fundamentals don't matter, they just matter less. And one thing that's mattering more than ever now, or maybe not more than ever, but as much as it ever did, is this whole going face thing. Like, this whole like good players go face. When do you go face? When do you trade? Like when do you turn it on? When do you know that you are desperate and so you have to go face? When do you still trade because you're preventing your opponents from doing things? When is a good? I've started to do this thing when I didn't used to do as much, which is I just let my opponents like get stuff off, even though I could clear them off the board. Just because my thought now is, look, if they have a Blessing of Kings, I want it out now. Because I'm not going to win the game playing around Blessing of Kings for the rest of this match. So if they have it, they do it now, I can come back onto the board because swings are high now and I have enough cards in my hand or whatever that can swing this particular situation. So I am not afraid of Blessing of Kings, even if he's getting a good deal on it. I have controlled, right? I have turned a high swing card into a controlled setting. And if he has it, he should play it because I'm giving him a good deal on it. But I've lowered the swing in the game. Right? I'm basically saying if he does have this card, Chimera, Blessing of Kings, whatever, like just a normal swing card that you would normally try to like play around as much as you can, you instead have these like release valves where you just let them play these cards. Not willy-nilly, but in a situation where no matter what they do, if they are spending that much mana to play the card, you can recontrol the board the next turn. So you're just giving them a good deal, but not a great deal. And that's really helped my game when I've done more of that because it's limited the swings in my game. And as a good player, you're gonna with like, especially if you have like a decent deck, you're gonna win most of your games. And what you really hate are those big swings. So you can give up some more to avoid the big swing, right? Like, and a lot of the times, giving up a little really means letting your opponent do something that you could have prevented them from doing that is bad for you. Like that sounds like it's all bad, but what you're really doing is making sure it's like the reverse of baiting, right? I mean, it is baiting, but rather than baiting so that you can do something better later on, it's baiting so that they don't get the most ridiculous value for their card and they just get good value and you can deal with it. So it's like a sad version of baiting, but that's what good players have to do now. Like it helps. If you think you're a good fundamentals player or whatever, think about baiting in ways that disadvantage you, but does not ruin your game plan.
Yep. So that's where we're at. New players just understand you're going to take more than just a few lumps before things get to a level that you might be happy with, and you might just have to slow down your expectations a little bit. I see a lot of people are frustrated, and I understand because people are always hoping that like, hey, this is a game mode in which I can just get all the gold I want. And it is very, very tough nowadays. And you can get there still because I think the game is a point where you're definitely able to beat it. But the skills are a little bit different and getting there is a little bit different. And what you don't want to do is just get into these situations where, number one, you think that there was not much you could do, or you blame the loss on something that was most apparent to you, and that's the Ysera, like the Ysera issue, right? Like I see a lot of people complaining about Ysera, saying, I'm averaging 3-4 wins. They got to get rid of Ysera.
Ysera is making you lose half a game if you're getting 3 or 4 wins. That means you have like 7 games. like 6.5
that
games.
yeah, Ysera lost you a small amount of those games that you saw Ysera and you were angry and you blamed it on Ysera. I would say you not going face earlier, you making a bad trade, you just playing incorrectly lost you those. And Ysera was just able to be played because of your probably numerous misplays. So focus on those instead. And this has been tripping players up since Hearthstone has begun, right? Like this is the Death Knight issue. This is the
Oh god.
just a lot of things that people easily attribute to. So don't get caught up in that. And then once you are stuck at a certain spot, go watch streamers, go seek feedback from other people. But this is where we're at right now. And it's one of the problems that Arena has because people come, they're hoping for the best. This is like, the Westward Travelers um, trying to find riches and glory on the frontier. And we know how that worked out. The vast majority of them got screwed. They had a really tough time, and people are having a really tough time in Arena now. So there are ways to do it,
Is
but
that how that story worked out? I thought they all became software engineers in Silicon Valley.
that's true. Yeah, they all went there, and I guess some of them stopped in Utah and just became Mormons. There you go.
That's when the Mormons happened. Yep, that fits with my knowledge.
Exactly. So
Um,
that's it.
yep. Okay. Well, I thought that was a good segment. This question from the goat brought to you by our Patreons, patreon.com/grinandgoat. Thank you guys so much for supporting us, and we will be back next week with the full review, card by card, of Wailing Caverns mini set. Until then, this is Adwicta.
This is Merps. Bye.